to sample some of your comments as we continue with the broadcast. Also, it's a Wednesday, and therefore we'll be hitting the kitchen, but in a different way. It's about cocktails, about mocktails, and so I call you right here to be part of the conversation. Later on, towards the last minutes, we'll be getting to that, or towards the last hour, we'll be getting into that. But also, we'll be talking a bit of business as we get to understand a woman who's been phenomenal in this space, and says what we will break the barriers, the glass ceiling, to make sure that as women, we also get that acknowledgement in terms of the contribution that we have put in the entrepreneurship world. So this is what is there for you. Please be part of it. Once again, tell us what is happening around you, and we'll be keeping us all up to tabs. My name is Linda Alela, and Morning Cafe begins right away. We first of all take a look at what the papers detail this morning. We have the Standard newspaper, the Daily Nation, as well as the People Daily, and we'll also be getting into the news stories of the day. And it's about school heads' dilemma as cost of food soars. A story captured on page 4. Schools will tell you that it's been an expensive affair for them, and that then they are left with no choice but to somehow, and I remember the last time when students were coming back home, the reports had indicated that some of them will come back home, well, not in the best of shape in terms of health, because there's that aspect of rationing. It's an expensive affair, and so there's school heads have no choice but to actually, get their students not having enough food, courtesy of these tough economic times. And so we hope that this would be addressed in a different way. This has captured on page 4 of the Standard newspaper. Deputy President William Ruto lashes out against fake polls, a story captured on page 7. It's been about polls. We all understand how important polls and crucial they are, especially at this hour of election. And so most of the times it will shape the opinion. It will shape what the ground looks like for different leaders or different political faces. And so according to the DP and many other people, they have said most of these polls are sponsored, and therefore we cannot highly depend on them. Away from it, Raila Ruto's tough task to avoid runoff, and you must have seen, courtesy of the polls, a majority of stories revolved around that yesterday in a tight battle, or in what is being seen as a tight battle between Right Honorable Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto, and therefore this is extended in this conversation that we are having this morning on the Standard newspaper. Speaks of the race between two leading presidential contenders that is tight, and according to opinion polls, Raila and Ruto will now have to work harder to win over undecided voters to secure a first round win and avoid a second round face-off. A story captured on page 6. Whether we're going to go for a runoff or not is a question of wait and see, but certainly the odds do not seem so favorable for any of the individuals. While they enjoy so much numbers, questions linger as to whether they'll be able to manage the 50+1 as stipulated in the Constitution. And away from it, Uhuru hits campaign trail for Azimio. Well, from what it is that we saw yesterday, President Uhuru Kenyatta was out there, once again affirming his position of endorsing Right Honorable Raila Odinga for the presidency. This is what he says. Why are you talking about Uhuru yet he is not seeking votes? Well, they keep telling me to finish my term and go home. I don't know where they think I'll go, but I will still be here. He is Kenyan above everything. And once again, yesterday said that he would wish to leave this for Right Honorable Raila Odinga. This as well will not augur well with his, or the likes of Deputy President William Ruto and his handlers, or better yet, his supporters. And so that's one of the things that we'll be looking at this morning. While President Uhuru Kenyatta maintained that he will steer clear from the campaigns, it appears that it becomes hard. After all, politicians are paid to politic. Away from it, debt-fueled hits and misses define Uhuru legacy. This according to what it is that I had earlier mentioned in terms of his performance, or the Jubilee Government performance. The mountain of debt President Kenyatta's administration has accumulated might pale against the benefits of projects. But then again, he believes he will be vindicated. This is captured on page 14 and 15. Those are the key stories that are on the Standard newspaper. Let's briefly look at what the Daily Nation has. And the Daily Nation, Uhuru, I was soft, but Karua will jail thieves. Well, this is interesting. In City Rally, the president admits that he chickened out on dealing with thieves and other crooks in his government, but he promises that Right Honorable Raila Odinga's running mate, that is Martha Karua, will do the dirty job if elected to office next month. This is a story captured on page 7, but just how dirty is the job and how instrumental would it be for us to get to deal with the question of corruption? Uhuru divisions spill to Parliament, and we have seen even to the level of Parliament, well, there was that recall, but then again, such was cancelled. And so we'll be getting to these conversations as we ask ourselves of what ramifications will this evident, spillage be, or this indifference then be. Away from it, Sakaja and the duel ignored the real issues and they focused on personal matters. It was about, Sakaja pointing fingers at Igade and the other way around, something that has hugely been castigated. And they say, questions are asked as to whether they really have anything left for the people of Nairobi that would be helpful if at all they would avoid addressing issues as expected. Members of Parliament to return millions paid irregularly. That is about 460 million recovered back. A story captured on the back page, as you can see right here, that is on the Daily Nation. And clerks say between about 169,000 and 172,000 deducted from each member every month. And in figures, about 418 the number of legislators in Parliament, and we're also talking about 250,000 amount of money in shillings members of Parliament used to earn monthly as accommodation and house allowances from around 2018 and all the way to 2020, and 6.5 million shillings amount of each member of Parliament had to actually receive cumulatively during the period of 26 months. And so these adjustments would be necessary, but then we see how they managed to do the same. Cash will be wired to schools by Friday. This is according to the CS for Matters Education, Professor George Magoha, as we wait to see how they'd be able to cushion the schools. Heads have been complaining on the tough economic times and the tough moments of running the institutions, and therefore have asked government to come in handy to as well allow to cushion them. And so we'll be looking at that. And to a sad report here, 15 women raped in Nairobi every day. This is according to a study, and it's quite shocking. A report by the Nairobi Metropolitan Services reveals that more than about 5,000 women were sexually assaulted in the city in the 12 months to July this year. A story captured on page 11 of this. You might need to get into it, but then again, it's quite unfortunate. And the land saga about Kenyatta University, which is the first story that we'll be carrying this morning, that cost Kenyatta University Vice Chancellor his job. Professor Wainaina stuck out his neck and fell. A story captured on page 10. And so as we get to looking at what it is that we have prepared, yes, Kenyatta University KU, that is KU Vice Chancellor, Professor Paul Wainaina, has been kicked out days after President Uhuru Kenyatta blasted him for allegedly opposing the construction of a 600 million shillings World Health Organization emergency hub in the 100-acre piece of land. Emotional, Professor Wainaina held a meeting with staff at the institution Tuesday, saying that that was his last address at the helm of the institution, citing frustrations. Elizabeth Atieno with that.
Kenyatta University Vice Chancellor Professor Paul Wainaina has quit his plum job.
Probably this is the last time I'll be talking to you as a VC.
This comes 2 days after President Uhuru Kenyatta threatened to deal with him after allegedly refusing to hand over 410 acres piece of land to construct a World Health Organization emergency hub at the institution.
Alafu wewe unaenda huko kusema ati hii shamba ni yako. Shamba yako kutoka wapi? Alafu wewe unaenda kuweka breaks hapo kwa sababu, lakini bado nimebaki wiki 3. We shall deal with those individuals swiftly and effectively.
Emotional Professor Wainaina convened a meeting of the university staff in what appeared to bid them farewell on Tuesday. In the meeting, he laid bare his frustrations, telling the university staff that he had received a chain of letters from the head of public service, Joseph Kinyua, directing the university to surrender nearly half of its land.
As a follow-up, and to effect this decision, you are requested to surrender title deed for LR 11026/2 to enable the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning carry out the acquisition as directed by the Cabinet.
Professor Wainaina says according to the letters from Kinyua, 30 acres will go to the WHO emergency hub, which will be completed in 3 years, while some will be donated to the squatters. 10 acres will be donated to the Africa Center of Disease Control. 180 acres will go to the neighboring Kenyatta University Teaching, Research and Referral Hospital, which already sits on 100 acres donated by the university 10 years ago. Another 190 acres will be given to the 10,000 squatters who already occupy the land illegally. This now reduces the university land from 1,000 acres to 590 acres. Kenyatta University and the Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital were embroiled in a feud over the ownership of the 1,000-acre piece of land. The decision by the Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital to apparently split 200 acres piece of land in question to erect WHO headquarters is at the heart of the controversy. After the university complained that the land was set aside for development projects, including the construction of a children's hospital.
It is expected that you surrender the title deed by close of business on Tuesday, 5th July 2020. Yours sincerely.
President Uhuru Kenyatta last weekend accused section of the university management of blocking the government plan.
We don't operate in silos. Kila mtu anashikilia ni kama ni yake. Hajui siku zake, hata kama zangu zimehesabiwa, hata zake zimehesabiwa. Unaona? Utaenda uache wengine waendelee. Ama ni namna gani?
Professor Wainaina, a former primary school teacher, joined the university in 2005 as a member of the academic board in the School of Education. He later became the acting vice-chancellor in 2016 and was confirmed as the substantive vice-chancellor in 2018. According to the university, a new council has been formed and held a meeting after the old one was dissolved. However, Kenyatta University Communications Department stated that it is yet to receive official communication on the alleged firing of Professor Paul Wainaina. Elizabeth Atieno, TV 47.
Thanks, Elizabeth, for that. Now, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe has directed that money collected by county hospitals, including NHIF remittance, should be kept in hospitals so as to ensure that hospitals do not lack drugs and operation funds. He, at the same time, called on the county government to embrace a check-off system for the KEMSA debts so as to offset debts that they owed. The CS made the remarks when he made an impromptu tour to Uhuru County and Referral Hospital, that is earlier Tuesday.
And we have asked for two things from the county governments in order for us to be able to work effectively and efficiently. The first thing we have asked is that money that is collected by hospitals, whether directly or indirectly, money that is sent to hospitals by the NHIF should ideally be kept in the hospitals, not to be given to the administration and then taken for roads. Money for health is for health. So let's make sure that the chief executive of this hospital gets all the money, the board of this hospital gets all the money that has come from NHIF and that has come from the normal collections in hospitals. That is number one. Number two, we are also asking that the county government agrees on a check-off system for the KEMSA debts, so that at any time, if the county government owes KEMSA money is offset before the total amount allocated to counties is given, the same way we do with conditional grants.
Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has warned the heads of schools from chasing learners who fail to turn up in school with school fees. His sentiments come at a time when parents have been complaining of the short durations of school breaks, which makes it a challenge to raise the school fees that is needed. Sharon Baranga with that.
It is day one of second term. Learners across the country have been making their way to their respective schools, but parents have complained on the short breaks the learners have in between the terms that has made it a challenge for them to raise school fees.
School fees imekuwa shida, matatizo. Hata leo vile tunavyoongea, wanafunzi wote wamerudishwa nyumbani. Uchumi umekuwa mbaya, bei ya mahindi imepanda 220, so tunashindwa tutaenda wapi? Muda ni mchache wa kutafuta school fees, umekuwa mchache zaidi.
Tumetafuta tumekosa, hata kwanza mimi wangu hawajaenda shule kwa maana nimekosa. Niko na wa university wawili hawajaingia, niko na wa form 1 hawajaingia. Hiyo pesa yote nitatoa kama mimi sasa, mama mzee kama mimi.
Fees imekuwa ngumu kupata. Tukiangalia duration ambayo Minister for Education amepea watoto ni kidogo sana. Na sisi ni watu ambao tunategemea vibarua. Siku 10 haiwezi tosha mtu ku raise 20,000 ama 30,000 kwa public university ambayo tunaweza lipa mara moja.
At Amboni Secondary School in Nyeri County, the school's principal says they have managed to cut down on the expenses they use in cooking after they began using modern jikos that consume less firewood. This has enabled them to be in a position to accommodate learners having a challenge in raising school fees.
Some very needy students are not able to pay their fees. We are able to bear with the parents to pay at their own pace, the little they can afford, while we are able to to sustain the students in school because we don't send them home. We retain them because the expenditure of the school has become less. Therefore, we are able to sustain the kids and the fees can be paid much later.
However, the Education Cabinet Secretary has warned heads of schools from chasing learners who fail to turn up in school with school fees.
Please do not return any child home from a boarding school. You will say, how shall we manage? You will manage because there are those who are going to pay fees. There are those who are going to struggle. As they struggle, put a human face to them. Don't send the child back home. Don't give him food. That's what you should do if you are so wicked. Because if you have 10 others who are paid, you can feed a poor child from there. So don't let us hear. See, we are at Kipindi Lala Salama. I don't want eggs on my face as I go out. So we shall deal with you circumphoniously if we find out that you are enjoying the poverty situation in our homes. Day schools are 75% of the schools, and everything has been paid.
Magoha was speaking from Kereri Girls in Kisii County, where he issued title deeds as directed by President Uhuru Kenyatta. People who have grabbed land from learning institutions have also been warned that the government will seize properties illegally developed on school land. Sharon Baranga, TV 47.
And now back to politics. Deputy President William Ruto and his Kenya Kwanza team have pitched tent in Western Kenya for their day 2 tour in rallying the Mulembe Nation to support his presidential bid 27 days to the August 9th general election. Deputy Ruto and the team sustained their attack on Azimio la Umoja chief Raila Odinga following his threats to boycott the August polls in manual register will not be an option. Boniface Baraza has the details from Trans Nzoia.
The second in command in his day 2 charm offensive tour of Western Kenya pitched tent in Kiptend and Cherangani constituency, Kitalale Saboti constituency, Kaptama Mount Elgon constituency,
Kaptama Mjambo,
before making stopovers in Teso North and Teso South constituencies in Busia County. The Deputy President William Ruto has sustained his attack on Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga as he dispelled the latest opinion polls released by Tifa that ranked Odinga at 42% against him at 39%.
Munazungusha mambo ya opinion poll. Tunajua ni njama yenu kwa sababu munajua huyu mtu ya kitendawili tutamshinda asubuhi na mapema. Sisi tunawaambia wacheni kutafuta njia ya kitendawili kukataa matokeo ya uchaguzi.
Wanaanza kubabaika. Mumeona wanatoa opinion polls za porojo.
Ruto lashed out at Odinga for what he termed is known for boycotting elections, making reference to 2017 presidential repeat poll where Odinga boycotted.
2017 wakati tulisema tunarudia uchaguzi, akasema yeye atasusia uchaguzi. Alisusia uchaguzi lakini uchaguzi uliendelea. Tulichagua rais, hatukuchagua rais. Si mnaona tena ameanza ile story. Mimi nataka nimwambie mzee wa kitendawili, wachana na Chebukati. Wewe ushindani na Chebukati, wewe pambana na mimi. Mimi niko tayari kuonana na wewe mondo kwa mondo.
Ukichukua baba uweke hapa, uweke Ruto uweke hapa, nani atakuwa analala usingizi baada ya dakika 10? Si ni baba atalala usingizi?
Ule mzee wa kitendawili asitutishe na kusema kwamba kama sio manual at the elections haitafanywa. Elections itafanywa na sisi tuko tayari.
Defense Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa also came under sharp criticism by DP Ruto following recent allegations that he was slapped by Ruto.
Mimi ndio nimemtoa kwa mtaro nikampatia kazi ya waziri. Hawaje kuongea maneno mingi hapa. Sijui kama tunaelewana. Serikali mimi ndio niliunda na Uhuru Kenyatta.
Wapinzani wetu wamechukua mwanamke mmoja na wanataka kumfanya ni kama yeye ndiye atasuluhisha mashida za wanawake wa Kenya.
It is a charm offensive too of DP Ruto in Trans Nzoia County as he moves to solidify his base ahead of August 9 election. Boniface Barasa, TV47, Trans Nzoia County.
Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition presidential candidate Raila Odinga has rubbished Kenya Kwanza coalition claims that he is getting cold feet as the August 9 polls draw near. Traversing the coastal county of Taita, Taveta, Odinga termed his race to State House as unstoppable. Muthoni Maina has more.
Azimio la Umoja presidential flag bearer Raila Odinga left nothing to chance as he dared Deputy President William Ruto to a monumental political battle, citing that his race to State House is unstoppable. This comes after Ruto and his allies alleged that Odinga had sensed defeat by threatening to boycott the polls.
2007 mlipiga kura. 2013 mlipiga kura. 2017 mkapiga kura. Kwa hiyo kila mara kwa mara inanyesha kama mvua ya undanyi. Sio? Lakini ikifika kule Nairobi inafanywa ukarabati. Na kwa vifaranga vya kompyuta. Lakini mara hii mjinga amerevuka.
During his vote hunt mission in Wundai, Taita Taveta County, Odinga stated that his administration will slay the dragon of corruption once he clinches the top seat.
Tangaza vita dhidi ya ufisadi, vita dhidi ya umaskini, vita dhidi ya ugonjwa, vita dhidi ya ujinga.
On the same breath, Mombasa County Governor Ali Hassan Joho listed his first assignment to an interrogative depth on Deputy President William Ruto's accrued land property, including the estimated 2,500 acres of land, which he allegedly acquired from the former Taita Taveta MP Basil Criticos.
Shamba la kwanza kulifuata Taita Taveta ni eka 2,500 ambayo iko kwa mikono ya Ruto.
Rudishe, si namna hiyo? Subiri kijana. Wamesema warudishe ama wasirudishe? Nimesikia jamaa amenyakua shamba hapa. Shamba ya 2,536 eka. Nataka waiti wa Taveta. Watu 2,500. Kila mtu apate eka moja. Si namna hiyo?
Odinga continued to sell his agenda, promising to revive the country's economy if elected president in the August polls.
Unajua gharama ya maisha iko juu sana. Ndani ya siku 100 bei ya unga itarudi chini, bei ya mafuta itarudi chini, bei ya sukari itarudi chini. Sawa sawa.
Muthoni Maina, TV47.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, is racing against time to have the judiciary finalize pending cases in the next month's general election. IEBC Chairperson Wafula Chebukati has warned that the commission may fail to implement further court orders if the courts do not give rulings by Friday this week. This as presidential aspirant Jimmy Wanjigi is expected to move to the Supreme Court after his appeal to have IEBC Gazette his name was dismissed by the appellate court. Apollo Kamau with that.
IEBC's quest to keep up with tight election timelines was on the spot during the two-day National Election Conference attended by key representatives of the judiciary, Supreme Court Judge Njoki Ndung'u and Court of Appeal Judge Daniel Musinga, as pressure mounts on the judiciary to resolve pending cases delaying the printing of ballot papers. IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati warning the Commission may fail to implement further court orders on next month's general election petitions due to time constraints.
The judiciary will fast-track the cases, nomination disputes, please do so, for we are running behind schedule in printing of ballot papers, and actually by this week we should have finished all the printing. We shall only be remaining with the presidential candidates' ballot papers.
Among the cases pending in court is that of former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko, seeking to have the High Court and the Supreme Court give him the nod to contest in Mombasa. The High Court in Mombasa last week ordered IEBC not to print ballot papers until Sonko's case is heard and determined. Presidential aspirant Jimmy Wanjigi, who lost his appeal at the appellate court, could be time-barred after he threatened to move to the Supreme Court to challenge the ruling.
We had consulted across all the courts, and we are confident that we will be able to beat that deadline.
IEBC has until the 29th of July to print over 132 million ballot papers to be used in the August election. The ballot papers have to be in the 46,000 polling stations 3 days before election day.
We have started working, those who are not aware, escorting the voting materials. We have taken over the exercise.
The courts have so far cleared UDA Kiambu senatorial candidate Karungo, Machakos gubernatorial candidate Wavinya Ndeti, and Nairobi's gubernatorial candidate Johnson Sakaja, among other candidates. Apul Kamau, TV47.
I'll call them hard knuckles exchange between Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja of UDA ticket and Polycarp Igathe of Jubilee Party as the two faced off in the Nairobi gubernatorial debate at the Catholic University of East Africa. In the first of its kind debate organized by all media houses, among them TV47, the debate brought together 6 out of the 9 candidates eyeing Nairobi governor's seat. TV47's Muige William with the details.
Polycarp Igathe.
Minutes past 8 p.m. Monday evening, and the first of its kind Nairobi gubernatorial debate kicked off at the Catholic University. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance Polycarp Igathe was having all the airtime to himself as his main rival of the Kenya Kwanza team and also Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja arrived late for the debates.
Hey, karibu mdosi. Sasa bro, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good, karibu sana. Good to see you. Pole.
Asante.
Traffic mbaya tutasort.
Thank you very much.
Minutes later, Sakaja gets to the stage explaining he deliberately made it late to give a head start to his rival Igathe.
Senator Sakaja, why are you late?
Well, my opponent is used to head starts, and so I wanted to give him an opportunity, and we're here.
The debate taking shape as the two candidates laying bare their agenda to more than 2 million registered voters in Nairobi. The integrity question dominated the debate following Sakaja's questionable degree certificate and Rigath's resignation as deputy governor 6 months after he took office in 2017.
Mimi siwezi kubali mshahara bila kufanya kazi.
And integrity is being able to stand up and say, yes, on this I am right, and yes, on this I am wrong. That is integrity.
Sakaja's education credential issues didn't go unheard, with Rigathi and Sakaja trading barbs over the issue. Sakaja, however, blamed it on government apparatus for not wanting his name to be on the ballot paper.
I do have all the qualifications required to run for governor of Nairobi.
Go and check what Senator Sakaja cited as his degree in 2017. It's a public document. And then look at the degree he's saying it is today. We don't even know who he is. Is your name really Sakaja?
The two engaged in another heated exchange over the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, albeit both agreeing the NMS terms should come to an end.
The deputy governor of Nairobi, Philip Kisia, did not quit. There'd been no need to have NMS.
We saw how it was formed, and because it's a creature of the law, it extinguishes naturally by law in November of this year.
Before the face-off of the two, Sakaja and Rigathi, 4 other candidates, Kenneth Nyamwamu of United Progress Alliance, Herman Grewal of Safina, Nancy Mwandime of Usawa Kowote, and Esther Waringa, an independent candidate, also engaged in the debate, sharing the agenda to Nairobi voters.
Emergency response we needed.
Next in line is the deputy presidential candidates debate, slated for the 19th of July, with majority looking forward to a heated debate between Rigathi Gachagua, William Ruto's running mate, and Martha Karua, who is Raila Odinga's running mate. Mwege William, TV 47, Nairobi.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC chairperson Eliud Wabukala now wants Kenyans to elect credible leaders, and people of high integrity to avoid corrupt individuals in the next government. As Mike Karungo reports, EACC now says Kenyans should vote for leaders who will inspire hope in the upcoming general election.
Kenya is the 128th least corrupt nation out of 180 countries, according to the 2021 Corruption Perceptions Index reported by Transparency International. However, Kenyans can prevent corruption and other economic crimes at the ballot by electing leaders who will enhance transparency and accountability, at least according to Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission.
Leaders that are compassionate, that are having Kenyans at heart. Let us avoid leaders who are looking for employment.
We are far much more better than 2017 in my view. If you look at the political campaigns and rallies, there are less violence as compared to 2017 or 2013 or even 2007.
Speaking during commemoration of the Africa Anti-Corruption Day in Nairobi Tuesday, Wabukala said it is the opportune moment for the electorate to stop the cycle of electing corrupt leaders and instead elect leaders of integrity.
Let us go to the elections and elect leaders that will serve us. Let's look for servant leaders.
The celebrations under the theme Elect Leaders of Integrity to enhance transparency and accountability comes less than a month to the general elections. With cases of public officials who have forged the academic papers to attain their positions or get promoted to senior posts, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission says it is pursuing a recovery of salaries earned by public officials with fake academic papers. Wabukala says EACC is actively investigating unarmed individuals and will require them to refund the public with the money they have acquired.
People with unexplained wealth must be called to account. And in that side, we have made a lot of progress. We have recovered a lot of property.
Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit said the surest way to killing a nation is when its leaders normalize wrongdoing and citizens idolize those who have engaged in corruption and brought down institutions.
Towards ethnic profiling, and we are now seeing people probably maturing to be talking about their economic models and issues other than this community versus that community.
The The anti-graft body defended its track record, stating that it had undertaken its work with objectivity and impartiality, with no regard to anyone's political or other affiliations, insisting that it investigates all cases, whether petty or grand.
We have had so many governors have been taken in. We have permanent secretaries. We have quite high-profile people.
With the general election around the corner, Kenyans were in the spotlight for betting corruption by electing leaders without integrity, with studies showing that over 70% of Kenyans who encounter corruption do nothing towards preventing it. The agency has flagged a total of 241 politicians seeking elective seats in the August 9th general elections as unfit to vie for public office, some of whom have been cleared by Electoral Commission IEBC, while others have pending court cases awaiting determination. In the last 5 years, EACC has finalized investigations and submitted to the Director of Public Prosecutions 890 reports containing various recommendations. Mike Karungo, TV 47, Nairobi.
National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi has called off a special sitting scheduled for today. According to Muturi, the government printer, as of Tuesday 2:30 p.m., had not gazetted the sitting for reasons unknown to them. A showdown was expected in the National Assembly during the special sitting, as members of Parliament were set to debate the county government and additional allocations bill 2022 and the contentious Huduma bill 2021, which, according to former Majority Leader Eden Duale, is discriminative. And Interior and Coordination Principal Secretary Dr. Karanja Kibicho has dismissed allegations by a section of leaders allied to Kenya Kwanza coalition that chiefs are being used to buy IDs with aim of influencing the forthcoming election. And speaking when he met national government administrative officers in Murang'a, he termed the claims as baseless, saying the government has no interest to rig election, insisting that he has meetings organized for chiefs among other administrators is a routine security issue, as well as head general elections and civil education that is their role on delivering credible elections.
And it is necessary that the grassroots leaders who are assistant chiefs all the way to county commissioners would get an opportunity to tell us about the situation in Murang'a, the preparedness they have to handle the elections, how they are going to deploy to ensure that the elections are clear of any violence. That's the discussion we are having with them. And listening to these allegations that keep going around about us interfering with the work of our Ngao officers, which I dismiss. In fact, the less said about them, the better, because we don't want to give wild allegations any room for being propagated, because we as national government administration officers are people who are employed to serve Kenyans with a lot of neutrality. But we also have a responsibility to tell Kenyans what it is they must look for in leaders, especially now that we are going towards elections. And we continue calling out issues that they must look out for. Issues of integrity, issues of honesty, issues of transparency, issues of consistency. We must look at this and tell them what to look. But we have seen, especially the group of Kenya Kwanza, whenever we talk about stealing public resources, they think we are referring to them. We are not referring to them. We are referring to thieves in Kenya. And if you are not a thief, you need not to worry, because it's not you are referring to. But I have never gone to a public forum to say so and so is a thief. We are just saying, if leaders come here and you know they are thieves, don't vote for them. That is civic education, and every responsible country, every responsible government has a duty.
The High Court in Nairobi has dismissed a petition seeking orders to ban Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja from running for governor on allegations that the degree certificate he presented before the IEBC is in question elsewhere. UDA candidate in the Kiambu gubernatorial senatorial race, Karungo will be on the ballot after the IEBC handed him his nomination certificate, as Mwangi Maina reports.
Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja and his running mate in the Nairobi gubernatorial race, John Njoroge Mushiri, can now breathe a sigh of relief after the High Court in Nairobi quashed an application seeking to have Sakaja's name expunged from the Nairobi gubernatorial ballot paper on grounds that he faked his academic credentials. While throwing out the petition lodged by Dennis Wahome, Justice Anthony Mrima noted that it is not within IEBC's mandate to determine the authenticity of academic qualifications presented to the commission by candidates eyeing for various seats. Wahome averred that Senator Sakaja forged a degree certificate from Tim's University in Uganda. Justice Mrima noted that the petitioner did not provide sufficient evidence to support his claims. Wahome, who had earlier submitted his case before the IEBC Disputes Resolution Committee, but was also thrown out, wanted the court to compel IEBC to bar Sakaja from running for governor. Sakaja will battle it out with 8 other candidates, including his arch-rival, Polycarp Igathe of Jubilee. Meanwhile, in Kiambu County, Paul Karungo will fly the United Democratic Alliance Party ticket in the Kiambu senatorial race after months of protracted court battles over his validity to run for an elective seat. IEBC issued Karungo with his nomination certificate following an order from the Kiambu High Court. IEBC had insisted that Karungo was impeached from office when he served as a county executive member for youth, sports and ICT under impeached Governor Ferdinand Waititu.
The same court said that I was never impeached. I was never removed from office. I only left the office pursuant to section 179(7) of the Constitution that says when a governor leaves office, he goes home with all of the cabinet. So when the governor, my good friend Waititu, left office, he went home with all the cabinet. So I don't know why they were saying when he's impeached, I'm impeached. You know, I could not understand that point.
We have 27 days to go. All what we want to tell the Kiambu people at large, Karungo Adhangwa is here, the freedom is here. Karungo is going to become our next senator in Kiambu County.
Karungo will smile all the way to the ballot and battle it out with 7 other candidates in the Kiambu senatorial race. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
And human rights advocates have accused the Jubilee administration of perpetuating human rights violations. Amnesty International, in its report dubbed Missed Opportunities, has noted grave and consistent lapses in protecting Kenyans against human rights violation. And Rinkilemi with that.
Some of the decisions made by the Jubilee government in the last 10 years of its administration have been termed as misleading, with an intention of perpetuating human rights violations. According to a report by Amnesty International dubbed Missed Opportunities, the Uhuru-led government has failed to safeguard the rights of its people.
The Jubilee government has been a government of Madharau for our Kenya, for our rights, and for social justice.
Nearly 10 years ago now, the Sengwer community, who are living, I think, in Embobut forest in Cherangani, they are being burnt out of their houses. Or the demolition of homes of people living in places like Jomvu.
Use of excessive force, cases of extrajudicial killings, and enforced disappearances are among issues raised in the report. Recent cases of missing persons have dominated the media, with the government accused by some of standing in the way of victims pursuing justice.
On the issue of extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances, there were a lot of opportunities to arrest the spike that we've seen. In 2021, there was a 20% increase comparably to 2020. And, it's been 4 or 5 years since the Missing Voices Alliance has been producing documented evidence of people who've been killed. And the question really still remains is why was there not decisive action taken on police stations that are notoriously responsible for the number of deaths.
Despite persistent documentation, media publicity and actions by oversight agencies, extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances have neither been eliminated nor reduced.
No prosecution and no real statement back to the country about what was behind the 30 or so bodies that were floating down the Yala River. And we're 6 months since the expose by human rights organizations, and we still don't know who killed those people.
So within 100 days, we expect the Ministry of Constitutional Affairs to publicly reaffirm all institutions are prohibited from committing extrajudicial killings, enabling forced disappearances, torture, and ill treatment, and it must release or charge in a court of law any persons currently in their custody.
As the Jubilee administration's term ends, 28 million Kenyans remain deprived of very basic social and economic rights, while over 4 million people currently sleep hungry. Noteworthy, though, is that the government has scored highest in areas of rights of intersex persons, civic freedoms, public health, and to a limited extent, housing. Andrin Kilemi, TV 47.
President Uhuru Kenyatta now says he is here to stay. The head of state spoke during a tour of Nairobi, drumming up support for Azimio One Kenya presidential candidate, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, in Nairobi. Paul Kirobi with that.
In his tour of Nairobi County Tuesday, President Kenyatta said he's here to stay while campaigning for Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga. President Kenyatta drumming up support for Raila's State House bid in his Nairobi stopovers.
Ati wananiambia nimalize niende. Kwani wanafikiria nimalize niende wapi? Nitakuwa hapa tu. Na mimi nitafanya kazi yangu mpaka dakika ya mwisho. Ama ni namna gani? Bado kuna hospitali za kufunguliwa.
During the tour, ex-Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko, whose bid to vie for the Mombasa Governor seat was blocked by IEBC, seemed to eat a humble pie as he praised President Kenyatta and NMS boss, Major General Badi, who had accompanied the president. Sonko has been criticizing the two, blaming them for his woes that culminated in his impeachment from office.
Sasa mimi kwanza ningependa kushukuru Mheshimiwa Rais wetu Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Kwa ile muda kidogo nimekuwa nje, nimeona rais amechapa kazi. Huyu ni rais anajali maslahi ya wana Nairobi na Wakenya kwa jumla.
Takarua. Hawa ni watu ambao ni wa msimamo na ni wa haki. Mseme ukweli bana.
President Kenyatta accused his rivals of misleading Kenyans on his achievement, saying he's in office till the last day.
Kutoka tufungue hizi hospitali 17 kwa muda wa miaka miwili, tumeweza kutibu wa Kenya zaidi ya 2.5 million Kenyans ambao wameweza kupata huduma kupitia hizi hospitali. Kwa hivyo watu wapige mdomo kwa sababu hiyo ni haki yao, lakini kazi anaye macho anaona, si ni kweli? Si hii ndio kazi? Wenzangu hapa Mihango.
President Kenyatta presided over the official opening of Mwiki Hospital in Kasarani constituency, level 3 health facility. Paul Kirobi, TV 47.
All right, thank you, Paul, for that story as well. Forms the basis of our discussion this morning. It's all about politics. only 26 days to the general election. Kenyans are eagerly waiting to get the next crop of leadership, a conversation that is on. And the beauty of it is that in this space, you realize that a majority of Kenyans have decided that they're just not going to take a backseat, that they will hugely be involved in this talk of politics. Well, thanks to the social media, thanks to the media as well, these conversations are ongoing. And what's important is that call for peace that we have seen across the divide. And it's necessary that as we we are keen to maintain that peaceful coexistence. And so as we get to the conversation of politics at this very hour, we ask for you to be part and parcel of this. The hashtag is MorningCafe at Linda_Lela, TV47 KA across all our social media networks. 22047 is the SMS short code. I get to sample some of your comments as we continue. You can as well call us live. The numbers will be running down on your screen. And we get to this conversation alongside one lady and two gentlemen that will be joining us, two already in set, as we also have one who will be joining us virtually. That is Mark Bachachi, communication strategist. In a bit, we'll loop him in. But in studio, Gloria Orwoba, youth policy analyst, is here with us already. And Philip Kisia, who's the former Nairobi town clerk. It's an honor to have you, senior, here in studio. The last time you were joining us virtually. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much for
Asante
the
sana.
invitation.
As well, Gloria, thank you so much.
Good morning.
And good morning to you. Yeah. And her nominations? Yes, I mean, everyone was looking forward to that, at least those ones that were excited to be nominated.
Yeah.
Plus, generally, members of, all the parties.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the lists are out. Of course, all political parties have 7 days from, I think, Monday to either revise or just submit so that it can be gazetted by IEBC. And you can't be able to reward or please everyone within the party.
Why should it be about rewarding and pleasing in the first place?
Because the thing is, for a party to nominate you, it's imperative that you have worked hard to push the party's agenda.
Right.
Yeah, the nominations are not just about picking anyone from the streets and putting on them on the party list. That individual should have at least showcased how they have pushed the party agenda, whether through volunteering in different capacities, during either past political party events or things like that, or even just being an advocate for the parties, like right now, the manifesto or the ideologies or things like that. So yes, it is a way of saying these are our loyal people who have walked the journey with us, who have really, who have been supportive towards what we are trying to achieve as UDA. And so therefore, that's why I'd say it's about rewarding. But I always say that in future, because it's also about, particularly the gender top-up lists. It's about ensuring that you have those women who have showcased that they have the ability to join the political space. Yeah. It's giving them a hand up so that, you are able to be exposed to parliament, to the dealings of, whether you're trying to go to the Senate or National Assembly, such that after that nomination, you are supposed to vie. So for me, I feel like sometimes I see people who have been nominated and they've had 5 years to sort of try and make something out of the nomination, but then they come back after 5 years and they're like, hey, nominate me again. So that's why sometimes, as an affirmative action way of bringing women, I feel like, at one point we should be able to say, if you've been nominated, you should not expect to be nominated again. Because
you truly have positioned yourself, Gloria, and those ones that really believed in you at the level of Bobarse. And now that it did not happen, we look forward to see your name on this list. Could you please speak to the people?
Can I be honest with you? Most people who don't understand how the spaces of politics are difficult probably thought that I only vied to be nominated. But actually, when I lost the party primaries, I was very disappointed. And to some extent, I had thought of you know, how do I really want to be the MP of Bobasi. I can't believe it has ended like this. So when we had conversations with my party leader and those involved in the party, they actually were like, you know what, you still can represent your people in this and this capacity. So I'm honored and I'm humbled, and I hope that we do, I'm humbled to be nominated in the Senate list. And I hope, you know, being nominated is one thing. Now we really have to push that we get the numbers.
Right.
Because, you know, it's not that everybody who's in the nomination lists will actually end up in Senate or National Assembly. So as a party, we have to get, you know, I think it's for every 3 people, there's a formula for how many seats go to which party. But you have to have as many elected seats for you to get more nomination seats. So it's just the beginning. Being nominated doesn't mean anything. It just means you're on the list. So now we're really working hard. Since I've been nominated to the Senate, I'm trying to see, and even before that, because I've been in the presidential campaign team, I'm trying to see what else can I do to help that we get more seats, either in the county assemblies, National Assembly, or the Senate. And what I can tell my people in Bobasi constituency is I'm still coming. This is, for me, I feel like this is a hand up for me to prepare for the next election, because I am going to be elected in Bobasi as the first female MP.
And so you're going to go back from Senate?
Yes.
And
yes.
Remember, hold it right there. Sidia, you've been here long enough, and nominations, you understand how emotive this can be a matter. And sometimes, like Gloria says, it's always about awarding those ones that have been loyal to the party. Is this where we get it wrong? Because sometimes we ask ourselves, who are these people that we have nominated to Parliament, to Senate? How much have they done towards contributing to the change of the nation?
Yeah, I think, first of all, Gloria,
congratulations.
Congratulations
for
being nominated.
Thank you.
But I hope you are not beyond number 2.
I'm actually nominee number 4.
Number 4. So I wish you good luck, because I don't see Kenya Kwanza, getting 4 slots into the Senate. I wish you had fought very hard. I wish you had fought very hard to be among the top 2. But I see Kenya Kwisha getting not more than 2.
As of the time,
but I wish you all the well.
With the polls.
But I wish you very
well.
We
are at 25.
In fact, I'm surprised now. Gloria is referring to the polls. Yet
after that said,
that's why I pointed. No, that's why I pointed.
You had your moment. Gloria,
sorry.
I am shocked that Gloria is now referring to the polls, which his party leader has been dismissing as letters yesterday.
I'm also dismissing.
But anyway,
I'm also dismissing
he's referring to them, saying, according to party polls. But anyway,
according to your polls,
Gloria, I wish. Yeah, we don't have polls.
According to your polls, you've already said Gloria, that we are getting 22.
You had your moment.
Okay.
You had your moment, Gloria. I said, and this is a fact and it's on record. But let us set that aside. Your party leader is on record. He said, when he was doing very well, the polls are showing that he was doing very well. He was very, very happy to refer to them. You see, we are doing very well. But that's politics. I'm sure maybe you're not very old in politics by looking at you. But anyway, let's get back to the party nominations. Right. I agree with Gloria that it should be about loyalty to the party.
Oh, okay.
You must be able to propagate the ideologies of the party. Okay? So that is key. Fidelity to the party.
Right, okay.
However, where I disagree with my sister Gloria is where you talk about pleasing people. Pleasing people. And rewarding people.
Thin line between loyalty and pleasing and rewarding.
No. When you want to please, you just want to make somebody happy and to please the person.
Because they've been loyal to the party.
No. When you are loyal, it doesn't mean that you're a psychophant.
Okay.
I am a member of the Azimio, and I can tell you I propagate the Azimio ideologies, but I can tell you I'm not a psychophant.
Sini, allow us to take a short break, and then we come back on that very note.
All right.
A very short break, okay.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next set of millionaires are farmers, as we know agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why nilieka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature because the temperature
Perhaps
needs
just
to be...
let's listen to what Senior had to submit, and then we come to you on the very same question. And yes, back to you, Philip.
Thank you. So I had made it very clear that it should not be about pleasing people and rewarding, but there should be a criteria.
Right.
Trying to create a gender balance, those who are disadvantaged in the community, in the society. But most importantly, what value are you going to bring either in the National Assembly, in the County Assembly, or in the Senate? It must be about value addition.
Yeah.
Because you see, the salary you are going to earn is not from the party coffers. These are public funds. So you're actually a public servant, so to speak. So it's, let's move away from these issues of rewarding and pleasing people, because that's where you find that some people have been nominated. I'm not referring to my competent and very good friend Gloria, but that's where you find girlfriends sneaked in,
right,
or boyfriends sneaked into the list. And when they get there, they earn money for doing nothing. It should be about what value do you bring? Are you sorting out the issue of balance? Are you taking care of those people who have been disadvantaged? So it must be, when you are nominated, you must deserve. Let's move away from pleasing and rewarding people.
Right. Yes, Mark Bachachi, perhaps that's the reason why for the longest of times, women have been labeled to just get themselves up to these positions, not based on merit. And I mean, we've questioned why it has to be this way. It's on the question of nominations. Do you suppose that on several occasions we miss it out, especially when it comes to, rewarding those ones that are party loyalists, that in as much as some would not be competent enough, some would not be good enough, some would not advance, the agenda of the Kenyans enough, they still would make it to the list of nominations. And sometimes they actually are lucky enough to get to Parliament or to Senate.
The overarching theme in many nominations in this country has continued to be what Gloria said about rewarding loyalists and rewarding friends and family, and unfortunately sometimes even rewarding girlfriends and boyfriends for acts better explained by the person nominating. Now the problem with such a thing is that the Constitution is very clear that those nominated are supposed to represent a special part of the country that would ordinarily not be represented given how we vote. So that starts with women, it goes to youth, then it goes to special interest groups, and then it goes as well to persons living with disabilities. And when you look at those criteria, then it is not just about who has been loyal and who is to be rewarded. It is also about what is good for the country and what is good for the people who are acting in a certain capacity. So, for example, the people who are nominated to represent people living with disability, like Honorable Sankok was, they must be taken to task and be asked the question, how did you represent this special needs group? The same way Ms. Omanga needs to be asked, how did she represent the needs and the interests of the people who she was nominated to represent? Or were they spending the entire time campaigning instead of actually working for the people? And that's the sad reality of where we are in Kenya with this reward-centered way of doing our politics. So for me, I want to congratulate my good friend Gloria. Congratulations. It takes a lot to be number 4 on our list of a party that is as serious as UDA, and I wish you all the best.
All right, Gloria, there you go.
Yeah, allow me to say something. Definitely you have to account for what you're nominated for. And you know, the issue of rewarding it has nothing to do with psychophancy. Like, you know, for the longest, I've actually pushed, or many people have their own agendas, what they're passionate about. If you have followed me through the 2.5 years that I joined politics, I'm very young in politics, I've been clear on the things that I'm pushing for, you know. It has been, I'm a youth advocate. I'm also at the forefront when it comes to women issues, particularly women in politics. And outside of that, it's how to push empowerment of women. It's something that I've been, you know, with. And actually, when you meet me, you're like, oh, unafanya zile vitu za mama, or, you know, whatever. When we even launched our women charter, I was literally at the forefront, and before that even just putting together what we need to push, you know, having those think tanks and whatever. So what I believe is, by the time you're looking at anyone on that list, sincerely, and what I've found very, and I know it's politics, but people will be like, sasa huyu ametoka wapi? Ameriwadiwa because amekuwa kwa TV akifanya ABCD. But there's a lot of work that every other woman that has made it to any nomination list, whether ODM or, because I've also looked at the ODM list and they have the likes of Queen of the North who have been nominated. If you look at their journey and look at the things that they have done or the work that they have put in for the political party, it is most of the time, and actually with UDA, with all the people on the list, it is justifiable. You can't actually find one person on the list that you cannot point or, you know, attach to an activity of the party. And that's what I appreciate this time, because I've seen in the past when maybe they did, a lot of political parties maybe didn't put such weight on the nomination list. I've seen in the past people being nominated and yet they never really contributed to any of the agendas. They're not mtu ananominatiwa for to push the agenda of women, and yet they have never really been champions of women issues. So this time round, I think political parties have really literally, they've really had to justify anybody that goes on to both the Senate and the National Assembly list, as well as the county list. Remember, we are also nominating on the county assembly level, and you will see that they've really tried to. And the best thing about it also is the amendment of the Election Act has regulated it. For instance, prior to this election year, IEBC didn't need to gazette. There were no deadlines. So apparently, the party would promise you a nomination and they'll keep holding it over your head until the very last minute after elections and what. And so people were always anxious, like, let me do this because I'm still angling for that. But this time around, there's been stipulation in terms of regional balance, you know, that you cannot nominate consecutively on the list 2 people from the same tribe, from the same region, from the same. So they've tried to actually regulate the things in there. And the best part about it also is, if you have an issue, that's why we have now these 7 days. within the party. If you have an issue, you've seen the list and you feel that you needed to be in the list, but for one reason or another, you are not on the list. They've even given the framework that you can dispute, you can protest through the party, you can protest through their channels. And after 7 days, once it's gazetted, at least now there's that element of it has been gazetted. Now we put it aside and focus on now the next political activities that are there. So I feel like this time round nomination is not about girlfriends.
Okay, well, interesting. Neither is it about boyfriends. I would want
boyfriends.
Senior, let's come back to Nairobi. Now, that was on the national perspective. And this perhaps triggered by the fact that the courts cleared Sakaja officially yesterday, and takes us to the events of the day before yesterday at Catholic University. You were there. I was there. We all witnessed what played out. Did you feel like, Nairobi is in a safe space with the 6 that articulated their ways that they would wish to handle the businesses of Nairobi in terms of, just taking it to the next level and taking it from a point where it was a bad governance aspect by Mike Sonko, and then the confusion that came along with NMS, if at all it's confusion, and the coming in of Anne Kananu, not much to show as to, her position in this particular space, and now coming to this space where you have to make that crucial decision.
Well, I thought you would have been happy that at least a woman
Kananu.
was...
Well, I celebrate that's for sure. This is based on
that a woman was given a chance to provide leadership in the capital city.
And that...
I thought you should have said, okay, and then if you have issues with a style of leadership or a style of management, and whether she delivered or not, as women were put aside and say, okay, because Kananu has been there for 18 months. And for coming out...
And I mean, the party did not term it necessary to see her defend this.
About the party.
Okay.
I'm just saying that
generally,
a lady has been given that opportunity to provide leadership in a capital county.
Okay.
So let's
appreciate that.
Let's appreciate that first. And,
yes. We give it to her
privately.
All right.
As
not
women,
privately here. This is Nairobi.
As women,
this
privately.
is Nairobi.
Because we don't want to, when a woman is given such a great opportunity, and then, we expose her weaknesses in public. But anyway, that aside, first of all, the key functions of the county were transferred to NMS. Therefore, I'm on record. Anne Kananu and the people who are left behind had very little to do in City Hall, other than probably issuing licenses for animals and so on and so forth. So when the key functions of any institution are transferred, then that responsibility, of course, is taken over by the new institution that has been formed. Now, let's get back to the debate. Well, when you aspire to be a person who is requesting people to give you time to exercise leadership, okay, the first thing that you must show is humility. Humility, humility, humility. Okay. The second thing, at least for the city, or the county city of Nairobi, is that you have the passion to do the job. Okay, you have the passion to do the job. The other very important ingredient is the issue of time management, because that is the biggest resource. And I'm talking from a management perspective. Time as a resource is the biggest resource that you have. Yeah. So if you waste that resource, then your leadership styles and qualities must be put to question. Okay. The other thing, of course, is the issue of integrity. So when I look at the candidates who have presented themselves, of course, let me focus on two.
We overlook the others.
The second tier of candidates, we had, I think, two, who really made an attempt to convince Nairobians, in my view, to convince Nairobians that they probably have the capacity
Who are these two?
To provide leadership. There was Kenneth, if I can remember, and there's a young man called Haman. Okay. Haman has a long way.
The lady did not try. They said the lady, what's her name?
I can't even remember her name.
Well, not...
It was that bad.
Okay.
It was that bad.
Okay.
So let us focus on tier one, the two gentlemen who have presented themselves to be considered for that office. They both are very eloquent. They were able to effectively communicate with the potential voter.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Okay. Of course, you know, there was a bit of verbose coming from both sides. But now, I mean, if you really have to dissect the two gentlemen who are probably the front runners, you find that Igathe, on one side, has a lot of experience in corporate management, okay? And very little experience in public affairs.
Okay.
So how has he complemented his weaknesses? Is bringing in Kaloki, who has a fair understanding of public management.
Okay.
On the other side,
Sakaja
has no managerial experience. He's my good friend, but I must say that he lacks managerial experience. I mean, if he produces CV today, he cannot show you that this is what you know, I've been able to manage, and these are the results that I've been able to deliver. But again, to try and cover up for his weaknesses, he has brought in somebody from the corporate sector. And I must say that Sakaja, in terms of public administration, not a politician, no, public administration is different from politics. Okay? So if when it comes to public administration, I can say that he has a fair understanding, but he has never been given a chance to manage, you know, in that aspect, manage public affairs. Rather been a nominated member of parliament and now an elected senator. But he has, you know, he has time on his side. So, do the two people understand the issues that are affecting Nairobi? From the debate, and I've been quoted even in the papers today, the two gentlemen spend over 60% of their time focusing on personalities and very little on the issues that are affecting Nairobi. So if I were given that opportunity, I would have moved away from personalities. Even if the moderators failed to pick up that issue, I would have quickly moved away from personalities and brought out the issues affecting Nairobi and how I intend to deal with them. What are the issues affecting Nairobi? Number one, water and sanitation. If you look at all the surveys that have been carried out, water and sanitation is a big issue. Of course, in the last 2 years or so, NMS has tried a lot, even in the informal settlements, to deal with the issue of sanitation and water and digging boreholes and so on and so forth. Of course, and then of course even the county, I think, has contributed fairly well. The issue of housing, how are you going to deal with the housing? We have our people living in deplorable conditions. Yeah? What are you going to do about this? And you only have 5 years. Where is the land? Of course, Nairobi is lucky because the county government has, under its title, have more than 2,500 acres that is available for redevelopment. Okay? So, you know, that needs to be taken into space. But I did not hear this. I mean, both of them tried to explain how they'll deal with the issue of housing, but they were not very convincing because you only have 5 years. And remember, to develop, you don't just wake up and start, you know, getting fundis around. There's a lot that goes into this thing.
Right.
What about the issue of public transport? I did not hear any of them talk about, you know, coming up with an integrated public transport system. And of course, the other issue is the issue of solid waste management, what most people call garbage. How are you going to deal with this menace that has affected the lives of people for decades? Okay? Then the last one, the issue of financial management, and of course improving services through ICT, or what most of them were referring to as automation. You know, of course, and then there's the issue of the staff complement and the competencies.
Yeah.
Okay? So how are you going to use the resources that you are currently finding there. Because, when you come from, like I did, I spent more than 2 decades in private sector. Private sector is different from public sector. When you get to public sector, you then discover that public sector has systems and structures and policies. You can't just get in and
make
and mount the changes that you want to carry out. So there are processes that you must follow. Otherwise, if you don't follow them, you'll find yourself in jail. So from the two gentlemen, looking at some of the attributes that are required for that particular job, I said managing time because you only have 5 years.
Right.
If from the onset you haven't put in managing that time, or you're showing a lot of displaying a lot of arrogance by walking into a debate 25 minutes late. It is not this debate was not about Polycarp Igathe. This debate was about
the people of
5 million Nairobians. So if you take 5 million people times the 25 minutes that you wasted, which is their time, which is a resource, multiply by whatever figure you want in terms of money, you will understand what we lost.
Have lost so much. All right. Let's allow then Mark Bachachi come on this very point. And Mark, we had 6 of them that showed up. 3 of them did not, of course, citing different reasons as to why they did. We had Nancy Mwadime of Usawa, and we had Safina Party's Herman Grewel. We had Kenneth Nyamwamu of United Progressive Alliance. We also had Esther Thairu, who runs Independent, and we also had Polycarp Igathe of Jubilee, as well as Johnson Sakaja of UDA. And it looks like this was reduced to a 2-horse race. A couple of issues that were touched. We realized that Nairobi has a lot of matters that need to be addressed, but in the best interest of time, they decided to focus on matters like corruption, a financial boost, the question of garbage, city governance. And I mean, looking at how these 6 articulated the matters, do you suppose that Nairobi has anyone to look at and say that perhaps the city could be safe with them?
I have a very simple criteria of judging what politicians say, and that is based on who is saying it. What I mean by who is saying it is that it's very easy to promise. It's another thing to have the capacity to deliver. And for me, the person is more important than the promises they give. Therefore, you've got to ask yourself the question that between the 2 leading candidates, that's Johnson Sakaja of UDA and Polycarp Igathe, who has the capacity to deliver. Now, we must first admit to ourselves that they both have not had opportunity to be executives in a public finance and public management sector. So we are dealing with public management novices. But we've got the history of both of them. Sakaja is a career politician, starting off in 2007, working for Vijana na Kibaki, going into 2013, working for Uhuru Kenyatta and becoming the chairman of TNA, moving into parliament as a nominated member of parliament, and then of course running with Jubilee again to become senator of Nairobi. And that in a nutshell is Sakaja's work experience. We've got, on the other hand, Polycarp Igathe, who has moved from corporate to corporate in senior levels, having responsibilities over large parts of the country. So in terms of managing people, then Polycarp Igathe will take that tick. But in terms of politics and understanding how politics works, then you have to give it to Johnson Sakaja, simply because even if you look at the polls show Sakaja leading, even though he's in a party which in Nairobi is 20 points behind Azimio. So that is credit to his political wherewithal. Then there's the issue, secondly, of integrity. The issue of integrity, then you have to give it to Igathe, because Igathe does not have a scandal to his name. His degree, for example, is not in question, and he is a man who showed up on time for the debate. On those three things, then falls flat on his face because he has had a number of issues, one during the COVID period, which he apologized for. He's got an issue with, of course, being caught having given misleading information about his degree before, because he had initially said he had one from Nairobi University, and that was misleading. And then now you've got the fact that he showed up late to the debate, which is an affront really to the same electorate that he is seeking, because it is that electorate that was watching. The third, to understand these people, we've got to then look at their ties to corruption and the interests that could be playing their hands in Nairobi. Now, Polycarp Igathe is tied to the interests of the Jubilee machinery, simply because we know how he was nominated. He, unfortunately for him, has not been associated with the Azimio machinery yet, because he's not seen as a Raila project. He's seen as a Uhuru project. So he has to come out and look like he is an Azimio candidate in and of himself. Sakaja looks like an establishment politician. He knows how to make deals with the right people. He certainly made the right deals with the UDA to receive that direct nomination to Nairobi gubernatorial race, and therefore these two people are connected. Now, the question you have to ask the people of Nairobi is, which connection do you trust? Do you trust the Azimio connection, or do you trust the UDA connection to be able to deal with the issues of Nairobi? And that is my real analysis of those two gentlemen, and that is the analysis that Kenyans need to apply and ask themselves, who will they trust between these two people who never held management and fiscal responsibilities on public finance. That is how I would do it. I would not focus on the promises, because it is easy to promise. It is hard to deliver on the promise when your character is such that you cannot do so.
All right. And Gloria, just on the very same matter, briefly before we take a short break, it's about how, the leader that gets to Nairobi is able to translate the plans that they have to action. It's about how they are able to position, Nairobi up to the level of the international scene. It's about how they are able to pick up the pieces from where Sonko left. It's about how they can manage to say that we confidently do not need any mess around, and therefore we can manage this because you have a governor that understands at the very helm of Nairobi. What do you make of what played out?
First of all, I think it's wrong to say that you cannot vote based on the promises. If someone does not have any promises or any intention or any vision, then what are you voting on the basis of what? That I trust you, but you have no vision for this city. And from the debate, it was very clear. From the debate, it was very clear that Polycarp Igathe has no vision. He has absolutely no vision for this city. As a matter of fact, it was open that he was hiding behind Martha Karua, that he was hiding behind Raila Odinga. Every other question that he was asked, he referred to the fact that, and Martha Karua and Raila Odinga. So for him as an individual who's coming out to say that I am offering myself to, change this city or to take this city to the next level, he has absolutely no vision. When he was asked on what he's going to deliver on his first 100 days, he could not articulate one issue. He basically said, the first 100 days, I will organize my administration. You are expected to have already at this point, while you are vying, thinking of how you're going to, who the people you're going to work with. So the first 100 days, you're going to also think about that and try and fix that, So it was clear that Igathe had no vision, and that's why he could not promise anything. When someone says that Sakaja, the only thing he has is a political career, let me tell you something. anyone who has ever offered themselves to be voted for is a leader, because the logistics around campaigning, the logistics and even the leadership that it takes for you to be able to organize a whole campaign, whether for 2 months or 2 years, you have to be a leader. And it is clear that not only did Sakaja take his nomination as a token of Asante, he actually worked and got elected. And from getting elected, he is now also pushing. He's the symbol of, this is what it takes. Politics is a career, as you're pointing out. It's a career of leadership, and you must have vision. So I think he articulated his issues well. When he was asked about water in Nairobi, you know, he was able to tell you all the sources of water. He was able to clarify how many liters that we use as a city. He was able to even pinpoint what the bottlenecks are, and then, you know, give you the solutions. Igade said he was going to call Martha Karua, since Martha Karua was Minister of Water, I don't know how many years ago. I mean, he even was shocked that apparently at Niliona, you know, there are donkeys in Nairobi. This is a person who actually is presenting himself, and he actually does not know the corners of this city. And it was very clear that you had two candidates. One was a project of the sponsors of Azimio.
Is it? Hence
why he seemed very, you know, aloof. And the other one is a project of the people.
Gloria,
yeah.
Let's take a short break and then come back on that very note.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
Well, do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next set of millionaires are farmers. As we know, agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why nilieka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature because the temperature needs to be between 28 to 32 degrees.
Walk this journey with us every Sunday at 6:30.
Impeached, and what happened after Sonko was impeached, and who took over Nairobi, and who was behind there, and the projects including things like Northland City that are behind that takeover, then you will understand why there's somebody and a family or some few people sitting somewhere.
Gloria, that would be
ensuring that Sakaja, they really tried to make sure that Sakaja was not on the ballot, because Sakaja has already won this thing.
You've seen Sonko dancing with the boss right there. Why would it be about families? And perhaps this goes deep. Senior, if you come in on the very same note.
Let me very quickly thank you, and thank you, Gloria, for your wonderful contributions. But let me say this. Gloria started off very well, but she, I think, got lost in between because she talked about visioning. You know, now when you hear, you must be very careful of anybody who aspires to provide leadership, who comes and tells you that I have a vision. Your vision remains yours and your family.
Okay.
If Gloria didn't know, let me tell her, let me educate her today, this morning, for free. I'll not send you an invoice. Nairobi City County already has a vision. And this is a vision. It's about being a globally competitive city that is iconic for regional integration and sustainability. That is a vision for Nairobi. So I think any other person who comes after them, people of Nairobi have already crafted a vision, and telling them that he is coming up with his vision, I think either he does not understand what visioning is all about, or is just lack of knowledge, or to some extent being just arrogant.
When was this vision drafted? When did they get this?
This vision was actually crafted by the people of Nairobi.
Okay.
It was through a very long and tedious process. It took almost 3 years with the assistance of the grant that my administration got from JICA. And we came up with what you're calling the new plan. So if you've read the new plan, you'll find this vision.
So from your administration, Senior?
This is not the vision of the Philip administration's team, but is a vision of people in Nairobi. Because we went around collecting views, and eventually a final report was signed off by Evans Kidero, because he came at the tail end when I finished the job, and he signed it off. So we have a vision for Nairobi. So when you are a person aspiring to be occupy that space, and you want to serve people, a vision for the people is a shared vision. It is their vision, it's not your vision. So if Sakaja has his vision, well and good, every person is entitled to their vision.
Okay.
Now, the other thing that I must also talk about, we keep on referring to a leader. We do not have something like a leader, but we have human beings who are given an opportunity at a point in time to exercise leadership. So we must move away from this element that my professor, Martin Linsky, calls the big L syndrome. You have a big L here on your forehead, the Bwana Mukuba syndrome. Because leadership is about service to the people. It's about getting people to get in one basket and moving in a certain direction that is agreed willingly, competently, enthusiastically. So those three things that are pointed out is what a leader, somebody in leadership does. Finally, the issue of water. Sakaja had read this report. It's Nairobi Water and Sewerage Strategic Plan. So all that he said is in that plan already.
So he did his homework well.
I must say he did his homework there.
Okay.
He read the report.
Right.
And he recited what is in the report. There's nothing new. That report is being rolled. The plan is being rolled out. One second. We're not talking about
Why didn't he gather it?
Well, at least let's acknowledge that Sakaja did. Yes.
Gloria, you had your moment. Okay. Okay. Now, anyway, what I was just saying is that he did well by reading the report.
Yes.
He did well.
The question is on the implementation.
But the question is, how do you intend to make it better? But let's move on the issue of what my brother Mark said. You know, and my sister talked about 3 families running that. I have run the city. I am not aware of those 3 families you're talking about.
Okay.
She referred to the northern land city. There are many private cities being developed in Kenya, or in the process of being developed by private persons. There are many. I can tell you, Tatu is one of them, and there are many others. The Techno City, that's a government project, but there are many cities that are in the planning stage that are going to be developed by private persons under the special economic zone. Okay? So there's nothing due. I ran the city. I have not seen those 3 families. I've never heard of them.
Who owns Northland City?
Northland City is private owned, just like Tatu is private. No. It's not what is. It's not important. It's a private. It's a privately owned Northland City is a private entity.
Yes.
And I've said there are many other private.
Who owns it?
There are many other. If you have an investor, if you have an investor, Gloria, I can tell you today, and the law allows, under the special economic zone for any individual, including
regardless
you,
of the family.
It is important we talk about who owns it because it has a connection with the KU land matter right now.
Not important. Those are rumors.
As a matter of fact, we should talk about
the KU matter.
Let us talk about the KU matter and how it is connected to Northland City
program is a
and who owns it.
Gloria, fair enough. Let's allow.
So anyway, finally, I'm surprised that Gloria. I think she's having some memory issues. Because when somebody says that I have this document from this institution, okay, then later on you say that is not my signature. What about the video? What about the video that confirmed what you put on paper?
Yeah.
Because there's a video. So the issue of when people of the great city of Nairobi will be choosing the county chief come 9th of August, the issue of integrity must be top of the agenda. You cannot ignore that fact.
All right, there you go. Mark Bachachi, close this one for us and perhaps introduce us to this one of KU. And that one we would not delve deep into because what happened yesterday, and here we are, and we ask questions as to what really could trigger such a move to a point where you see a VC exit the stage, citing frustrations. Does it have to go to such levels?
Well, let me just deal with one issue that has been brought about here about the people who own land in Nairobi and them having interests. Gloria, it is good that you know about Upland City and you do not know about Tetu City and the rest, but it is also important to also know about Weston Hotel and the other pieces of land that are owned by your own party leader. I think this conversation of blaming people about what they own and what projects they have in this country is a very tired script. Because number one, if we are going to say that Uhuru wants people because he owns land in the city, then what does Ruto own? What he owns is not land, and therefore he does not have interests. He doesn't want a governor who will not come after Weston. Really, is that the level we want to descend to? Or do we want to uplift our conversation to where we are talking about not rumors and innuendos and casting unfounded aspersions at people when we know that this country has developed and grown despite Kibaki owning quite big chunks of land within Nairobi. So let's not sink to those levels, Gloria. I think this hustler versus dynasty thing, I think it is unfair. I think it is classist. It is elite hate, and it is a very dangerous path to take, because the guy who owns a boda will say those of us who own cars are also dynasties, and we saw what that led to a couple of months ago. So let's not go down that path. Tafadhali ninaomba kwa heshima kuu. So let us deal now with the issue of KU. We must understand that Kenyatta University, as is Egerton University, as is Jomo Kenyatta University, are public institutions. And as public institutions, they are liable and answerable to the people. And those people can ask them questions through their representative leaders. Now, KU has many thousands of acres that have not been in use. Some of those acres are given to, are already right now being occupied by squatters who are Kenyans who do not have a place to stay. Another is being occupied by National Referral Hospital, and there is more land that was earmarked to be used for different national projects. Now, we must understand this through the context of what every other Kenyan goes through. If, for example, the government says that there is going to be a project to build a road, then what the government is required is to compensate the person for their land, and then the person moves away because of a concept in law called eminent domain. Eminent domain means that the government has eminent domain as representative of the people, unless the KU Vice Chancellor, is saying that the land is going to be taken by an individual and not for the sake of the entire country, then let's have that conversation. But when it is about the entire country, when you have a national referral hospital built there using resources of the state, our taxes, you cannot come and say that it is unfair to be asked to cede that land to squatters, to cede that land to better use. And this really is an issue, because Egerton University has the same problem. It has huge tracts of land which it has refused to use. It has refused to turn that land into agriculturally productive land. And honestly, we need to be very proactive and pragmatic about how land is used in this country. The idea of land laying idle simply because it is owned by an institution is the same reason why people end up grabbing this land. If, for example, the Wilson Airport had used the land around the airport correctly, there would not be a hotel sitting on their land. So let us force institutions to use the land correctly.
Okay, well, Gloria.
I'm very happy that this topic has come up, because I want to demonstrate, when we talk about state capture, what happens. It is indeed correct that what Mark Bachachi is talking about, that there's a group of squatters called Kamai, Kamai squatters, who actually went to court. They occupy 100 acres of the KU land. They went to court actually demanding for 120 acres. And there's and that was on 6th October. What happened is then KU was directed to give them 30.8 acres. I need you to keep up with these numbers. Later on, there was a judgment on 15th December that said that because these squatters, Kamai squatters, occupy 100 acres, then they rightfully own the 100 acres. So from 120 acres that was being demanded by the squatters, they were given what? 100 acres.
130.
Fast forward to 7th July, 2022, when now Joseph Kinyua, on behalf of Uhuru Kenyatta, writes a letter and asks KU to allocate 190 acres, for this Kamai scheme. Now, the question you need to ask yourself is, first, there's only 120 acres being demanded from the squatters. The first, when they went to court, they were only rightfully given 30 point something. Later, a judgment was given on 15th December. I assume they appealed and whatever. And then now they were told to rightfully occupy 100 acres. Fast forward, now you have Kenya asking for 190 acres. Now let me this is up and your trick swing here. Now 1 acre in Kahawa, is valued at 60 million or thereabout. So you got to ask yourself, if Kamai was given 100 acres, this is a court judgment, a court ruling. They were given 100 acres, which they rightfully occupy. And Kenya is asking for 190 acres to be given to the same Kamai scheme. So who is this super squatter who is going to inherit the 90 acres above? Who is this super squatter who is asking for 90 acres of KU land? Okay. Remember, 1 acre at KU is 60 million. So 90 acres, we are about 5.4 billion or thereabout. Now, one thing that people also don't know, the same person behind the scenes that is pushing for this scheme, Wapewe, Mwenye, they own right next to KU 5,000 acres of land that is not used. So you also need to ask yourself, why don't you donate that? Okay. Now, I want to connect something so that I think Kenyans wafunguke macho. They are going to use the squatters to try and say, oh, tunapigania haki ya Kamai squatters. Kamai squatters already given 100 acres. This is about the super squatter who's looking for 90 acres, valued at 1 million, valued at 60 million per acre. So that's 5 point something billion that they're looking for. Now, when you talk about state capture, ask yourself this. The World Health Organization is pushing for a research center, rightfully so. We need it, yeah? In what neighboring community is that research center going to be? We come back to the issue of Northland City. Who are going to be the first beneficiaries of that research center in terms of client base? The neighboring Nini of Northland City that is being developed by the same people who are behind the scenes. No, Mark, please allow me. Please allow me. Who are behind the scenes?
Make it brief. Make it brief so they can.
No. These people have not been making it brief, and these are facts.
Gloria, you see, there are a couple of other. Yeah.
Who is going to control the tenders from that hospital that is there? We already know about the Kemsa nephews and nieces. We already know what they stole. We already know how they got involved in
Why do you preempt danger? Why do you...
We are not preempting. We are not preempting. We are just telling Kenyans the truth. Now, this Northland City that someone is saying, yes, private entities are allowed to own it. No one is saying anything that they are not allowed to own. If you read the Ndungu report, it will tell you clearly, including the TGRC report, that this, our country, has actually been formed on the basis of successive acts of land grabbing. I've said this before.
And that's
now,
a matter, yeah.
Just allow me 30 seconds. Until 1974, 30,000 acres of what was called the Sukari Ranch was owned by a French company. Now, this French company exited, and that land was given to government. Wait,
okay.
please.
That is more than 30 seconds.
Now, it was given to government. Please allow me. Upon that time, it was 1974. Our former president, Jomo Kenyatta, these are facts. He actually used the director of settlement, a guy called James Njenga, to transfer that same land that was supposed to now be given to government for development of Nairobi. He gave it to himself. Now, on 9th November 1974, during the swearing in of that parliament, there was actually a very contentious issue about this whole thing. How did they end up owning this land? Today, as we are sitting here, that is the land that now someone is saying is owned by a private entity that is now being pushed for Northland City, that has forced evictions, that is now pushing the interest and the influence of this World Health Organization research center, that is looking at the futures of nephews and nieces who want to control supplies and tenders of that hospital. So this is what we call state capture.
Historical, land disputes.
I hope I have educated my partner.
Proceed.
My good friend Gloria, when you have not, when you don't have facts.
Those are facts.
You can talk the way she's talking.
Those are facts, including judgment.
Let's allow
Philip. But anyway,
those are facts.
Now, Gloria does not seem to understand many things about government, and I encourage you now that you're about to go to the Senate, please understand how government functions. Okay. Number one, any land, public land, in any republic, and let me confine myself the Republic of Kenya. Is owned by the people of Kenya, but held in trust by Treasury. So there's no land for KU. KU is just a beneficiary of government. So you can't say, KU cannot say, this is my land.
We're just talking about the 90 acres.
So we are talking about, issues here, land policy, okay? And it is even in the Act of Parliament. The other thing that we must talk about, and my brother Mark prosecuted very well, the issue of land use. Okay? For many years, Kenyans have left public assets idle instead of putting them to proper use. So now we have land use policies that are governing how public land should be utilized. Now, let me just say this. The government, being the custodian, has a responsibility to do two things. To make sure that that asset
is put to use.
That is used, put to proper use. Yeah? It's a government responsibility. It is nobody's responsibility. That's the sole responsibility of government. The other thing that probably Gloria needs to understand, before I get into a few of the details.
Don't quote me, just execute your case without quoting me. Because
Gloria, you have
said about 90 acres.
You have made your point and you've even made references to individuals. No, Gloria, please learn to debate.
Gloria.
You are not heckling. Don't heckle, learn to debate.
No.
So, she doesn't seem to understand the issue of land policy. She doesn't seem to understand how government functions, but that is okay.
But the points that she raises, Kenya, are they not valid enough?
Now, I have just said,
let's get to that, yes.
I've said that KU does not own land. The land is owned by the people of Kenya, held in trust by Treasury.
And to overlook that and the court cases that have been there.
And then number two, when you look at when this National Land Commission was formed, it was supposed to look at the past.
Yeah.
So the squatters that you're talking about who occupy that space, and by the way, the land requires that if somebody has been on land for more than 12 years, automatically they can actually...
They got 100 acres.
They can, the people who got were Kenyans. Were they Ugandans?
They were Kenyans.
The people who got that land.
Who's asking for 90 more?
Please learn to debate and give land
no,
to give
but
other
also
people.
Gloria,
step
by step, he's getting to that. I would want to believe.
Now,
yes.
You know, the question that we must be asking ourselves is the project the government is trying to roll out, and the projects that the government is rolling out. By the way, all these projects are captured in Vision 2030. Okay. So, and the vision is very clear. Where would this project, like the Isiolo city, turning Isiolo into a city, it's in Vision 2030, it's already captured. So the things being rolled out by government, mega things, mega projects, they don't come from the blues. They come from a well-researched document. World Health, the World Health project, building the referral hospital, the question that we must be asking ourselves, is it for the good of the public? And if the people are to benefit, and they're benefiting privately, because even you, I'm sure, when that referral hospital comes in, there are Kenyans who will be supplying things. They are not Ugandans. Okay? So let me just finally say this, because she talked about people winning tenders. Those are small, those are outcomes, small little outcomes from a bigger picture.
COVID billionaires.
Those are small little outcomes from a bigger picture.
COVID billionaires.
And if she knows, again, understands public management, procurement in this country is guided by the Public Procurement Act of 2005. So anybody,
2015.
So, okay, 2015. So
Yeah.
anybody, public procurement, I don't know the shares, but it's okay. But anybody who contravenes that act, of course, then the other arms of government, you will be prosecuted, you will end up in jail, and you have seen anybody who has an appetite of public land being prosecuted.
Okay.
Have you seen the people she has mentioned being prosecuted?
And therefore, we leave it for people.
I've only asked three questions. Please, I've only asked three questions, none of which have been answered. Who is the super squatter asking for the extra 90 acres? That's the question I've asked.
Gloria, let's allow.
Whose interest is the World Health Organization Research Center going to serve? The COVID billionaires or the Northland City Nini?
And that one has been answered, Gloria. There are mechanisms that will deal with that.
That's okay.
It's a question of graft.
He's talked about graft. He's talked about graft. We still have COVID billionaires, nephews and nieces who have not.
Let's have some decorum.
No, but he has had his time. Right. So I feel like
no, Gloria, I haven't taken the matter from you. In fact, if it comes from him, it goes to Mark.
You have your time.
Super squatter has 90 acres.
I have no business.
Proceed.
I have no business telling you who the super squatter is.
Because they know they are serving their interests.
That is up to the.
They are serving their interests.
If there's anybody who broke the law,
and their legal mechanism.
Not yet. That is why the professor. That's why Mark is pushing.
Mark Bachachi, in 1 minute. In 1 minute,
as we are not going to allow state capture in our university.
Forget about state capture.
Yes.
If you're talking about grabbing of land,
who is the super squatter?
The people who have grabbed land in this country are known.
Who is the
and they have been prosecuted.
Owner? Who owns Northland?
Exactly what it is that Senior says.
I don't have to.
There are legal mechanisms for that.
You can shout over it.
But also,
I've
Gloria,
given a history of where Northland City sits. I've asked who is the super squatter asking for 90 acres. Just answer. COVID
over a period of time have been prosecuted.
Yes.
Some of them are in court.
They have not.
Okay.
Conversations of land are still on. Mark Bachachi.
Well, first, I would just like my fellow panelists within the studio to have some decorum, because I did not hear what Kisia was saying, though I heard what Gloria was saying fully, because Kisia allowed her to speak, and then Gloria has decided that Kisia would not speak, so I could not understand what she was saying. But let us be clear, and let us stop misleading Kenyans. The argument that a road infrastructure is built next to where someone owns land and therefore it is to their advantage is very archaic, and it is very unfortunate. For example, there is a road construction happening on Langata Road. Now, should we say that that construction is for the benefit of Weston, to bring customers to Weston? I don't think that's a fair comparison. I do not think that KU and Uplands are connected in any way, because the question is, where else would you rather the government put a research center? Because it needs to be next to a national hospital. Now, if it needs to be next to a national hospital, it is either we put it next to Kenyatta National Hospital, where we know we don't have space, we put it in KU where we have space. Now, how you connect that to Upland City and then how people are going to make money from it without saying that it's actually the squatters now who will be getting jobs and things like that is unfair. Lastly, to say that the government has requested another 190 acres is simply to mean that the 90 acres will be grabbed is rather very, let me not use the term, but it is not correct, because one of the tasks of government is to plan. And when you do city planning, which a judge cannot do, when you look at squatters, keyword squatters, living on 100 acres, you should know very well if you're going to give them a standard and decent level of living, you cannot leave them in the shacks and shanties they're in as squatters. You will need more space. And this is why you need more space. You need schools for these people. You need recreational facilities for these people. You need roads for these people. You need sewage and drainage for these people. You need a market for these people, and you need all manner of amenities. Now, if they're already occupying 100 acres of land, where are they going to get the rest? Why are you saying that the government's consideration of the needs of these people in this particular area is about grabbing? And my question to you then is, why would you then not say that when the government was building SGR and was taking large swaths of land from Kenya Railways and other people, why wasn't that stealing? This idea that you want to prophesy and lie about what people are going to do in future at the same time is wrong. It is morally wrong. And then lastly, my argument on this is very simple.
In 30 seconds.
If Uhuru Kenyatta, who is the person you're insinuating wants to steal this land, wanted to steal this land, why didn't he do it in 2013? Why is he doing it when he's exiting office? Why is he doing it when he has no control? Let us not play games here. The people who have grabbed land in the Dumu report, in every report there is, are known. We know who the land grabbers are. Okay? Let us not bring innuendo and unfair accusations against people simply because they are our political rivals. Let us stop that, because now what we are going to do is we're going to stop good projects in the name of Gloria's conspiracy theories.
All right. Mark, let's take a short break. We have to take a short break. Gloria, it's a commercial break.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
Well, do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands. every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next set of millionaires are farmers. As we know, agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why niliweka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature because the temperature needs to be between 28 to 32 degrees.
Walk this journey with us every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. It's no secret, construction ain't cheap. But how do we make it affordable? Different individuals are finding ways of cutting down cost by use of pre-stressed slabs other than reinforced concrete, recycling plastics to make pavers.
Takes it for President Uhuru Kenyatta. But then again, he says he wants to leave it for Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Should he celebrate that indeed he's getting this endorsement from the president or by the president?
You see, the president is a Kenyan. He has his democratic rights. He is allowed to express himself. And he has expressed himself. And, he should not be blamed for expressing himself. And you see, when you have been in a position of leadership for the last 10 years, like His Excellency Uhuru Muigai has been, you appreciate that this country has a vision, Vision 2030. Okay? And this vision has about 8 years to expire, or thereabout, 7-8 years to expire. And when you start this vision, those of us who worked under President Kibaki, we were very clear on what this country wanted to achieve. Of course, after collecting views from Kenyans. So Kibaki did his bit. Somebody I admire very much, His Excellency, the late President Mwai Kibaki. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has come, and all the things the president is doing, the current president is doing, are actually captured in Vision 2030. For those people who care to look at Vision 2030. So there's nothing new that has done. In fact, I keep on telling people, the only mistake that this administration made was not to communicate effectively. They should have told Kenyans that what I am implementing is what you people ask government to implement through Vision 2030. The only thing I'm going to do is to fast track it because we were behind Vision 2030. A vision covers 25 years. We, of course, develop plans, strategic plans every 5 years. We're supposed to review. But after, I think, the third cycle, we discovered that we are way behind on certain areas. So some of them needed to be fast-tracked. And in any event, so that you do not, visioning is about taking a long-term view. So we have 8 years to complete Vision 2030. Do you want a person to come in who believes in zero mentality approach to management? A man who believes in starting from zero. That person will take you backward. You must get a person who believes that the people who are there before me did some work. My job is to pick it up from where they have left so that we can put this country forward. Looking at the rear view politics and approaches cannot help this country. We have 8 years to complete this vision. We must get somebody onto that seat, somebody who can deliver the vision. And finally, on that particular issue, you cannot get somebody who has a lot of integrity issues, somebody who will not ensure that this country remain cohesive, somebody who does not believe that we should get everybody on board so that we can move as a country together. So, any person who deviates from the aspirations of Kenya, which are very well ingrained in Vision 2030, is a suspect, must be rejected, and therefore, and that is why I think Honorable Raila Odinga, and when he made the choice of picking a super deputy president in the name of Martha Karua, super deputy president, somebody who has demonstrated in the past that she has capacity to deliver. And I'm hoping that you as women, at least for the first time, will be happy that we not only have a woman on the ballot, but a woman who is super, that a woman who is competent, that a woman who has experience, that a woman who has demonstrated in the past that given an assignment, you can do. Finally, you don't need a deputy who will undermine you. Okay? A deputy is a deputy. You remain a deputy. And the incoming deputy president, Martha Karua, has always said, my job will be to assist, to advise.
It's one thing to say,
counter my boss.
Senior, it's one thing to say and another to live up to those words. Philip Kisia, former Nairobi town clerk as well as a politician as it is today. Thank you so much for speaking to us. I know you have to rush somewhere and therefore I'll release you. I remain with Gloria for the next 5 or 10 minutes. And Mark, on the very same matter, President Uhuru Kenyatta says that, well, now Martha Karua, in the event that, she finds her way there, will be the person who will do that work that I failed to do in terms of dealing with the question of graft. But most importantly, the difficulties. And, based on statistics, they say that Jubilee Party has, averagely performed. Is that a government that one is excited to inherit and that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga indeed will continue with this vision?
Wapi driver yangu?
Mark?
You're on mute.
Mark, you must have been you are on mute, or it's us that do not have the audio on this end. Just a second, Mark.
I am
much better.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Excellent. So this is how it is. That number one, we must be very clear that Martha Karua is a champion of. Sorry, there's background noise. Martha Karua is a champion of fighting corruption. She's a bastion of good moral conduct. She's a disciplined woman, and there's no doubt in anyone's mind that she will be able to bring much needed discipline and high into our politics. In fact, so far, even in the campaigns, she has continued to do so quite well. Now, the question that we have to ask ourselves is, can we imagine Rigathi Gachagua waking up on any given day to do the same, to fight corruption?
Why not?
Because he has simply stated that his first priority when he gets into office is to unfreeze his questionable accounts so that he can build a house and give out rice. And he seems to be quite obsessed with this issue of rice and beans and rice and meat at state functions. And this is the difference between the two running mates, between Rigathi Gachagua and Martha Karua. Let us look at the experience. Martha Karua is a former minister. She's a former minister of water. She's a former minister of justice. She has been in the corridors of power, and we know how she has handled that. Similarly, Rigathi Gachagua is a former DO, and we know how he handled that position, especially in 1997, especially around the issues of one of our heroes of the second independence and how his wife was treated under Rigathi Gachagua. Beyond that, we've got questions around how his association with the Nyeri gubernatorial issues with how he was able to supply medical supplies, KEMSA style, to Nyeri. So the question, I think, is self-explanatory. You cannot compare Martha Karua to Rigathi Gachagua, and it is the main reason why Rigathi Gachagua is hidden in the UDA campaigns. When Ruto goes anywhere, he campaigns for himself. When he sat down with the media in a TV station, he sat down himself. When he launched his manifesto, he was the star of the show. Where is Rigathi Gachagua? And that really is the biggest concern. Does he have an able deputy, or does he have a deputy whose skeletons in the closet are even too scary for William himself?
All right, and where is Rigathi Gachagua? Perhaps I should start by asking you that,
How
Gloria,
can you ask a
wind
question
up.
like that?
All right, you
Even
tell me.
yesterday
You tell me.
he
They were
was-
talking. They
he
were
was
saying
in
that
the media.
they were
He
saying that
actually
they were
had
saying that, you know, it
yesterday.
appears like the DP is walking around with.
Those are narratives that people are trying to push. Even yesterday, he had actually a media interview.
Yes.
He is public. He is everywhere.
And
by
he's
the way,
doing well, justice.
very, very well.
Okay.
And what I'm wondering is, even when you're asking where he is in the launch of manifesto, in the what, is everywhere. Even when we did our women charter, he was there. I don't understand.
You know what Mark is asking as well as
no,
what I am.
I think what Mark has confused is that the candidate here is Raila Odinga. And no matter how much you try to hide Raila Odinga from us by putting Martha Karua at the forefront, we still remember that Raila Odinga is the guy who swore himself in. He will still remember is the guy who pushed that every other Monday, was it Friday, we go out to violence. We still remember that Raila Odinga is the guy who, even after people supported him, and he went for the handshake. He went for the handshake with him and his family only, and the beneficiaries of that handshake are not his party or the people who followed him or the people who are going to Canaan. It was just him. And we still remember that Raila Odinga is 78 years old and sleeps in all other functions that we have. We still remember that he is the presidential candidate and he's the one on the ballot, and he's the one that the state is sponsoring and a project of Uhuru Kenyatta. So as much as you're trying to hide Raila Odinga behind the skirt of Martha Karua, you know, we still remember all his scandals. You know, they're trying to put Martha Karua mbele ndio tusikumbuke maneno za scandals za Raila. We know, and we remember them, and we are reminding the electorate. And the electorate is very clear that a ticket or any vote for Martha is the vote for the guy who swore himself in and is pushing for violence. So, Rigathi Gachagua is very out in the open. As a matter of fact, I'm wondering when someone, yesterday there was a whole hashtag that Rigathi Gachagua has the mic because he was doing interviews. So that is a complete fallacy, and I think one thing that we need to understand is, just as Philip Kisia has said, you need a deputy who understands that he's a deputy.
Right.
And you know what? It is alleged that Martha Karua is only using this time to profile herself for her 2027 presidential bid.
And they stand to be
actually,
allegations,
when you look at it, prior to Martha Karua being put on the ticket with Raila Odinga, when would Martha Karua go to Luo Nyanza and talk to people and be accepted? Never. So she is the beneficiary of Raila Odinga's popularity. She's the one that is actually laying her ground. She's smart. She's a smart woman.
Right.
You know, people think at mama mnatumika. She's very smart.
But such is
politics. She knows that if she's going to be the first woman president in 2027, she knows that she has to campaign now, and she's actually stepping on the shoulders of Raila Odinga to ensure that in the places that she could not transverse, Luo Nyanza.
But such is politics, Gloria. A game of interest.
Yeah, but
and
I need Mark Bachachi and his team to understand that if they think they were snookering Kenyans by putting Martha Karua at the forefront, Martha Karua is snookering Azimio because she already knows that there's nowhere Raila Odinga is going, but she has to utilize this campaign period to profile herself as a presidential candidate.
Well,
so
let's
for
leave it
her,
at that, Gloria.
even if they lose, it's a win-win situation for her, because for the first time in Kisii County, Martha Karua stood at the forefront and people looked at her as a presidential candidate.
And therefore you acknowledge that she is a force to reckon with.
It is like they signed her on and Raila Odinga retired.
Thank you, Gloria.